Hello, everyone. It's Alan Schimmel. You're watching Techstrong TV on the Digital Anarchist Network. And today is Friday, April 10th. Welcome to the show. This marks 2 full weeks of Techstrong TV. And my, what a long, strange trip it's been. We've really learned a lot. I think we're getting better every day. And our content is remaining strong, I think. So we're going to keep doing it. I hope you're enjoying it. We'd love to hear more from you. I've been talking about it the last couple of days. We've opened up a companion Slack channel at techstrongtv.slack.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, suggestions, whatever you want to talk about. We're monitoring it. We'll try to talk to you about it. If you need an invite to join the public Slack channel, if you do go to techstrong.tv, you can just pop in your email address and it's a bot that sends you off a invite to the Slack channel. So please do that. Join the conversation. Join the community. You're home. It's a good way to interact and communicate with people. Don't feel isolated. As we do every day, let me give you a quick synopsis of what we got in store for you on Techstrong TV today. Number one, we have a good interview with Mr. Darren James of SpecOps Software. SpecOps is a Swedish company specializing in password management administration. They've made a free version of their product available during this COVID-19 episode, Password Auditor, and it actually will tell you if your password is a known compromised password, comparing it to a database of like 900,000 some odd passwords that have been compromised. So we'll be joining Darren from SpecSoft on that. I think from there, we're going to jump into another security-related interview, and this is with Dan Conrad from One Identity, part of Quest Software. And One Identity is working really hard on the future of multi-factor authentication with remote work. You know, good password hygiene or not, there's so many social engineering and COVID-related scams going on. Now's not the time to take chances. And of course, multi-factor authentication is one way of upping your cybersecurity hygiene. Dan and I also had just a good talk about security in general. That's an excellent conversation. So check that out. Really my feature interview today is one that we recorded back at RSA, though it's not security related. So it's just from this past February. And that is with my friend Sandeep Johari. I always call him Johari, but it's Johari. Sandeep is the CEO of Tricentis. And, you know, if you have anything to do in DevOps software lifecycle, you know how important continuous testing is, and you probably know Tricentis. They're the leader in the testing space today. Sandeep has done an amazing job of taking what was an Austrian-based testing company. Sandeep is based in Silicon Valley, and really making it an industry leader, you know, bar none. So I had a really good conversation with Sandeep. I'll tell you more about it later before we go there, but do check that interview out. And then finally, I wanted to mention one other interview we're going to do that I'm doing after that, and that was with J.C. Ramey, who is the one of the co-founders over at DeviceBits. And JC and the DeviceBit folks are really, you know, it's funny. He said they started their company to put call centers out of business, and they wound up being an enabler of call centers. And they've enabled call centers by developing a bunch of chatbots and automation, AI, machine learning-based stuff that help customer service work in an automated fashion, and especially with call centers being remote now, no one being able to come into a call center. Call centers that were remote before, of course, are thriving in it. But the automation that these bots bring to it is a welcome boon to it, and JC's going to tell us all about that. I'm going to do a short news roundup for the end of the week, and then we're going to turn things over to Charlene, who has a big funding announcement from Cato Networks that she's going to talk to you about. And then after Charlene, it's over to Mitch at the Analyst Corner. Mitchell Ashley, CEO of Accelerated Strategies, has 2 segments lined up today. One was an interview he did over at the Qualys Security conference this past February with Vince Campitelli. And then one will be actually Mitchell himself giving us some wise words to close the week out. And then I'll be back to close things up. So another action-packed day at Techstrong TV. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to get things rolling.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
Okay, back here in the studios at Techstrong TV, as I mentioned in the opening, our first interview today is Darren James, one of the evangelists over at SpecOps Software. SpecOps comes out of Sweden. They've been in the password maintenance space for, maybe 15 years now, maybe more. I think 2001, I think they said they started. Anyway, Darren has, the SpecOps people have made their password auditor freely available with everyone working from home. It's a great way to see if your password has been compromised. They have a database, probably one of the largest in the world, over 900,000, I think, of passwords that have been compromised. Make sure yours aren't on them. And SpecOps also offers a wide range of password security and management options, and Darren will tell us about it. So let's jump over to Darren James from SpecOps Software.
This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel for Security Boulevard, DevOps.com, here on Techstrong TV on the Digital Anarchist Network. And I'm happy you're joining us as we interview Mr. Darren James from SpecOps Software. Darren, welcome.
Thanks, Alan. Nice to talk to you again.
Nice to speak to you. Darren, and you and I just did an audio podcast a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to bring you on on our Techstrong TV broadcast to talk about passwords, password security, password hygiene, I guess is a good word, especially in this age where we have everyone, or in this time, let's hope it doesn't become an age, in this short time where we have everyone working from home, organizations kind of scrambling for these WFH remote workers and still trying to keep a semblance of security here as we're dealing in different circumstances. Why don't we kick off with actually giving a little bit of background on SpecSoft to our audience? On SpecOps, excuse me.
No problem. So SpecOps Software is a Swedish company. We've been around just under 20 years now. 2001 we started, and we specialize in password management and desktop management, really on authentication, really even more so these days. But particularly in the last 3 years, since a lot of the new advice around passwords from NIST and the NCSE came out, SpecOps password policy solution has really took off. And that does exactly what you've just said. It helps organizations improve their password hygiene in their environments. And now they can meet those NIST recommendations about using passphrases and such like. So that's kind of us.
Excellent. So, Darren, obviously, as I mentioned, this COVID-19 situation has put more than a little strain on multiple organizations. What can you? How's SpecSoft helping? Let's go there.
So we've decided to do a couple of things to try and help the wider community out. We have a really nice solution, a free solution called SpecOps Password Auditor. So anybody can go to our website, click the download link, they'll receive an email with a download link in it and a license file link in it. And what Password Auditor will allow them to do is scan their existing Active Directory network and produce a list of users in that domain or in that network that are currently running a compromised password. The database that we're checking it against is a 716 million word hash file, so pretty big. And it's amazing the results that you get to see from that. And that way, at least the community now, if you've got people entering there, maybe using their home computers or iPads or an untrusted device, let's say, from home, you've now got the opportunity as an IT admin or a security person to contact those people and ask them to change that password, and then run the report again, see if they've made another boo-boo when it comes to setting a password or hopefully a passphrase. So yeah, that's something that is out now. You can go to specopsoft.com, click on the link, and away you go. And then also going forward, another big problem that a lot of organizations have, and that's something that we're going to be releasing this week, is something called SpecOps password notification. So again, I'm sure you're familiar with this, Alan. People work from home. While they're at home, their password expires, but of course they're not on the network and they don't get a notification. So what SpecOps password notification does is sends an email to that user so that while they're still able to log in and still able to connect their VPN, they can go and change their password and hopefully carry on working without too much interruption. Because if your password expires when you're off the network, it's a nightmare getting that cached credential back into sync again. So those are two things that SpecOps is doing right now to help hopefully the wider IT community.
Sure. So let me just make sure I don't want to overstate or understate what this is, right? So in terms of the security auditor, it's not here to make sure that your password, has so many 2 out of 3 or at least 3 capital numbers, special characters. It's not that kind of thing. It's really checking that password to see if this is a password that's in a known compromised list. And you guys have a rather big list than the usual sort of black hole list or whatever people use that I've seen out there. That's number one. And that is totally free for organizations to use.
Totally free. No strings, no adverts or anything like that. It's totally free. But I mean, we do have other solutions as well. Password policy. That whole thing that I've just described is still a very manual process, having to reach out to the user and get them to change it. That's got some. That's going to take some legwork. But if you wanted to enforce a much stronger password or a passphrase policy in your environment, then we do a solution called SpecOps password policy that can enable that and stop them changing the password at point of change as well, or even the point of reset. So, but that's a paid solution. This is something that people can use today, though, for free and do something about it. Be proactive rather than reactive.
Excellent. And then the second product, and refresh me again, what was the name of that one?
So very easy, SpecOps password notification. So nothing, nothing.
It's what we call a descriptive name in the product marketing business.
It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just what it says. But again, that's going to notify you that your password's about to expire, but it's not going to allow you to change passwords right in it. You still have to log in and change your password.
Exactly. You still go through the same thing.
Right. It's not a password policy manager that enforces password rotations and stuff like that.
No, it detects what you've got at the moment, that your password
is
going to expire.
And when its expiration.
Exactly. Right. When it's going to expire, and then it sends out that email notification. So all those people that are off the network or using a non-domain joined device get some sort of alert. So rather than it just dropping off a cliff one day when their password expires, again, they can do something about it.
Got it. And then I imagine SpecSoft's paid password kind of security solutions do have this other kind of functionality we're talking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, we already talked about password policy, but the other solutions that we do are things like secure self-service password reset. And the really cool thing about that, especially for remote workers, is that say your password does expire or you do forget your password and you're working from home, you can click on the reset password link on your laptop as long as it's got a wireless connection to your home network or wherever you're connected to. You can authenticate yourself using our secure authentication engine, and at the end of that process, reset your own password, and that new password is sent back down the wire to the local machine and updates the cached credential on the local PC. So it eliminates all that kind of hardship that people would normally go through.
Sure. So, Darren, let's talk a little bit about, we're in a bit of uncharted waters here. What are the specs off seeing, from both even your free as well as primarily your commercial account holders? What kind of problems are they seeing with everyone, working from home and this, larger than ever remote force coming on rather quickly?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same suspects that we've always had for remote workers, but now, of course, it's on a much larger scale. You've got everybody now working from home rather than maybe a small subset of users that it used to be. So you've got all of the problems around password reuse and phishing attacks and phishing emails and text messages saying that, sign up here. We had one where they even try it on us. My CEO emailed me the other day with, Darren, take a look at this phishing effort. It's proper branded Office 365 kind of email, asking him or telling him that his last 3 email messages failed to send, and then he should click this link to log in and confirm what's gone wrong. And of course, that doesn't take him to Office 365. It takes him off to some dodgy hacking site that's trying to capture his credentials. But
or ransomware. Or ransomware, right? There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, we see it all the time. But people prey, especially in these times of uncertainty. These nasty people out there prey on people's fears.
Absolutely. I got one yesterday, Darren. This one's novel. I haven't seen this one before. I get an email in all caps purporting to be from some woman who says that she was charged, I don't know, a couple of $100 or something on her charge card, and she traced it back, and the charge was made from our Security Boulevard website. Security Boulevard charged her a couple of $100. And I wrote back and I said, I'm very sorry, but we don't charge anybody anything. Sorry. She writes back, she says, well, my charge comes from you. I'm attaching the receipt, something that purports to be a JPEG file. So, this ain't my first rodeo either. So I look at this JPEG file without opening it, right? And, I just look at attributes and stuff, and I see it's a nonsense. And I write back to the woman. I said, look, I'm sorry, but the truth be told, we don't even accept credit cards here, so it would be really hard for us to be charging your credit card for anything. I'm sorry. The flat out balls of these people that they write me back and say, well, I'm filing a claim with my bank and my attorney. You'll be hearing from me. So I wrote back and said, please do. What am I going to tell you?
Do you really want me to call you out on this one?
Yeah. You know what? Not today, hacker, not today. But this is what we're seeing right now.
It's incredible. And even things like, the other big thing that we see is people ringing up the service desks of their organization.
Yes.
And saying, "Oh yeah, it's Darren here, or it's Alan here from Security Boulevard. I forgot my password. You know me. You recognize my voice. Can you just reset my password for me
real quick, right?"
And the service desk are like, "That doesn't sound like Alan." But he might be.
But he could be from home and his phone's.
And so there's a lot of pressure on the service desk to get
social
these things
networking
right as well. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
That's the other part of this is, I'm a security person, so I'm on guard usually for anything that anyone sends me, especially from someone I haven't heard from. But when it's something else. Right, when you're an IT person who, they've got to have security top of mind anyway. So it's difficult times. Darren, we're almost out of time here, but before we do, one of the nice things about doing all these videos, is we get a chance to see kind of what people's homes are like behind them and what do they pick for their background. So I see you have some Star Wars stuff going on. I'm going to give you a chance to explain to our audience, what do we got there? It looks like a Death Star clock, right?
We've got a Death Star clock. We've got a Lego Han Solo frozen in carbonite.
Excellent.
Because I'm the father of 3 daughters, I've got Daddy's Little Princess postcards up there with Princess Leia and Darth Vader.
Excellent, man. So I take it you're a Star Wars fan.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Well, may the force be with you. Hey, Darren James from Spec Ops, thanks for joining us today on Techstrong TV here. And stay well, stay healthy, keep protecting us, help trying to keep us protected out here, and we'll be going from there.
Yeah,
okay?
Thank you very much, Alan. Cheers. Speak to you soon.
All righty. Darren James, Spec Ops here on Techstrong TV. This is Alan Schimmel. We'll be right back with more in just a moment.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Okay, back here in the studio. I hope you enjoyed the Darren James interview. Our next interview, as I detailed earlier, is with Dan Conrad at One Identity. One Identity, of course, is part of the Quest software company. It's a security play, and they've also been at it for some time. And Dan's going to talk to us about the future of multi-factor authentication, which is so important with so many of us working remotely. There's a lot of social engineering and phishing going on, and people's passwords getting stolen, and password hygiene, as we heard from Darren in the previous episode, is never what it should be anyway. And so it's never a bad thing to put in some multi-factor authentication then. Dan and I go beyond that, though. Dan's a security pro, has been for a long time, and we had a really good chat about security in general. So let's go over to Dan Conrad from One Identity, and I hope you'll enjoy this one.
This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel for Techstrong TV on the Digital Anarchist Network. Thanks for joining us. In this segment, I'm happy to welcome aboard Dan Conrad of One Identity. Dan, welcome to Techstrong TV.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
Fantastic. Dan, I'm going to let you, we've done interviews with One Identity in the past, but I'm going to let you, if you don't mind, give folks kind of your role at One Identity and a little bit of background on the company.
Sure. One Identity is an identity security company that is part of a larger company, Quest Software. So a lot of people know us from the Quest Software name, but we specifically focus on identity security. And I've been with the company about 13 years, give or take, and my role's changed a few times. So now I get to work specifically on the strategy and direction of identity. So I spend time working with customers and determining what fits their requirements and then how that translates into the marketplace.
Excellent. Yep. I've done my time as a chief strategy officer, so I kind of understand where you're coming with that. So Dan, let's jump right into it. We are operating in an unusual time set or mode for many of us. Not for all of us, as we were talking off camera, right? Some folks have been working from home for many, many years. For others, it's a bit of a system shock.
Right, right. I think the technology companies like us that, span the world, I guess, with a limited staff have been either working from home or working remotely. From home is a little bit different than working remotely, but, we've been traveling the globe for years and working from coffee shops and hotel rooms. So same concept.
Absolutely. Dan, how it hits home to us obviously is one thing, but talking now on behalf of One Identity, what are you guys seeing out there?
Well, we're seeing, I had a lot of assumptions going into this work from home or working remote concept where, it wasn't a significant change for us other than the lack of travel, as we were talking a little bit earlier. But, I came into the game with a lot of assumptions. And when, I would talk to customers about, how are things changing with work from home, I was a little bit surprised at the number of organizations that were not prepared for that or didn't operate that way already. So they didn't have things like the ways to enable their users to work from home, anything from simple ways to reset a password. I think within Quest and One Identity, we've been highly enabled that way probably for 15 years or greater, where we use, our own solutions as well, but we've been enabled as a remote workforce. And it works for us from a lot of different ways. A lot of things are like personality based or technology based. And we combine that and we're able to be very effective. Probably, when I came over to Quest and One Identity, I had been an on-prem worker, a system administrator doing things. And of course I had on-call duties where I would, dial in off hours or whatever I was doing, dial in. I guess I dated myself there if you couldn't.
Yeah,
tell.
you did.
But I do remember the dial-in days, but, connecting off hours to do things, but I didn't typically work remotely. And then when I came to Quest and One Identity, that remote workforce changes the way you operate on a day-to-day basis, when you come to work, the things you do, how you behave, but then the things that you can do, the things that enable you to do your job are much different.
I agree. Because it all depends what environment you're used to. I ran into this, Dan. I've had a laptop. So I worked remote for about 13, 14 years. When we opened MediaOps, DevOps.com, Security Boulevard, I thought it'd be nice to go back to the office. So we have an office here. The way our office is situated is it's a long hallway with about 12.5 rooms that are offices, kitchens, whatever. And so we all have our own, so we're not in cubes, right? We're in private offices. But still, we have almost everyone working from home except me and our video staff. But you start taking things for granted. Like I've always worked on a laptop now for as long as I can remember. And, we recently wanted to get a new machine here in the media room to help with rendering video. And so I figured, all right, let me get a desktop, right? Because I don't have a rack. We don't have a server room here. But let me get a desktop machine with some real horsepower and built where we can plug in more hard drives, all the reasons you want a desktop for, more RAM and everything. And I went shopping for a desktop. When was the last time you went shopping for a desktop?
I was just thinking, wouldn't know what to look for in a desktop these days.
Either did I, but I did some research and I tried to get smart. So I come to find out that HP really doesn't even sell desktops anymore. And I went to Lenovo. They really didn't have any either. I went to Dell. Dell still had like a line of 3 different models of desktops with various configurations. But where in a laptop you could get it shipped out in a day or two, I ordered that desktop a week or 10 days ago. It's not shipped yet. So I got a feeling,
They must have to build it, right?
Yeah, well, but Dell always built everything, but, I don't think this is on the top of their list. So, but yet you go to some, old school organizations and they're still using desktops, right? Or maybe they have a dock.
Right, so significantly smaller form factors, but and I ran into that with one customer I talked to, or actually an associate of mine who sent all of his workforce home, and they honestly didn't have laptops for them to take home. They were all working on desktops, and I took that for granted that everybody's a mobile workforce and just the logistics of a physical desktop, I don't I don't enjoy that.
No, I either do I. Well, I'll let you know when ours comes. This thing may be over by the time this Dell desktop shows up. But not to blame Dell. They were the only ones who even had a desktop. But anyway, let's move on. So there are challenges certainly that we're seeing, and it's uneven depending, I think, on the culture and the technology that a given organization has.
Challenges, and there's risks with those challenges, right? So
yeah. Well, that's the other thing.
Sending your people home. So
well, and you're sending them home with untried, unproven, unfamiliar technology to them and perhaps to you. And so, the first thing that not automatically, unfortunately, but usually the first thing that rears its ugly head is security, right? And people start saying, okay, now I still got to connect to the mothership. How do I do it? Do I do VPN, right? And that's rather old school. And VPN was great when all the resources you were accessing were behind the moat, in the castle behind the moat. But when we live in a SaaS cloud-based world, so what are you supposed to do? VPN back to your office, and then from your office go out to the cloud and to your SaaS applications?
I've seen that implemented. That's tough, right?
No, there are companies doing it. Yeah.
You can only get to the cloud through the VPN, and that's kind of makes you wonder why you have the cloud, right?
I mean, you want to talk about wearing belts with your suspenders, and what a waste of bandwidth backhauling like that. So, there's certainly those challenges, but then there's also just normal challenges. All of a sudden now, okay, my desktop's in the office. I got to use my daughter's laptop that she uses for school. And geez, now I should have spent an extra $300 on more RAM and a better processor. But beyond that, how do I log in? How can I maintain my password security and so forth? And so we start looking at things like multi-factor, authentication and stuff like that. And then that's kind of where one identity plays, right?
Right. I mean, we do, we provide things like multi-factor for, if you needed to multi-factor that VPN or if you need to multi-factor that laptop. I mean, a current concern for me is when you go home and you start using that, your home desktop in the corner or your daughter's laptop, like you said, is, there's vulnerabilities on there that we just can't control. We can't even control the security of the Wi-Fi network that they're on anymore. No. So what do I do for that? It's more subject to things like phishing email. They're running a personal email system or a personal email client on something they're checking their work email with. I've got some snapshots of some phishing emails. I've seen a real uptick in phishing. I think they're amusing, so I save a few of them just to look at it and laugh every once in a while. But that would concern me, if my employees are receiving phishing emails now that they didn't see before, because it's not coming through my email system, but they're getting it to their home system, and then they're being prompted for login credentials to their work email, and it's this circle that goes round and round, and before you know it, you're getting spammed, or the workstation's been compromised, or
you've ransomware or something like that.
Right. I mean, as long as the workstation's not a member of the production domain, now that's a good thing, right? So if you ransomware your daughter's laptop, the company doesn't really experience any losses. Your daughter may be extremely mad, but if that gets into, if the credentials get compromised and then that gets into the production domain, then, we've seen things like people spreading ransomware via group policy, which is a highly effective way to take down an infrastructure.
Sure is.
A simple concept like being prompted for credentials or prompted for a token when you authenticate would just eliminate that. So it devalues the password some bit, right? So if you can't authenticate with the password, with the value of the password is less likely to be, an injection technique, right?
Agreed. Is One Identity rolling out anything? I know a lot of companies are, giving out some free tools or free services or anything like that. Is One Identity doing anything to help maybe organizations, help them get on the on-ramp, if you will, to this, work from home?
Special programs, right? So We do, in the area of password management. So user self-service password reset. If you want to enable your users to reset a password very quickly, you can implement something like this for your enterprise in honestly a couple of hours and have that available. And then we have multi-factor tokens as well. So we have a discount on our multi-factor tokens on a short 6-month term. 6 months to get you through this and then back to work, and then make your decision, about your multi-factor. Multi-factor on-prem or remote is a good idea. So whether you get you through that hump and get you back to where you need to be and make a different decision, or continue with this decision. So we've got an offering there where we can do a huge discount on the multi-factor tokens. And then we have, from a privilege perspective, we're dealing a lot with admins working remotely. So we're offering our privileged session management appliance. In this case, an admin would VPN into the network. I still like the VPN for admins. I like to encrypt traffic when I can't trust the networks. So I encrypt the traffic across the VPN. And then beyond that, we're managing the session, or we're brokering that session, so you can audit it, you can record it, you can run behavior analytics on what the admins are doing and the systems they're connecting to. We have that solution available, and it's free for critical infrastructure during this time of need right now. So we just kind of reach out and determine who the critical infrastructure customers are, and we're offering that to them.
Excellent. How can people get information on that, Dan?
OneIdentity.com. So a well-known website.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that number one identity or ONE?
Spelled out, ONE identity.com.
So I kind of knew that. I just wanted to put it out there for people so we don't have any trouble. As you mentioned, you were looking around sites and you went to devop.com rather than DevOps. And it seems to be somewhat of a, I don't know if it's malicious or not. I've never even gone there, to tell you the truth. We did do a virtual event with DevOps, OPZ, for the IBM Z team at one point, but I never went to DevOps. So interesting. Anyway, Dan, what else are you guys seeing? And with this work from home rush going on, and of course, security trying to maybe play a little catch up as usual.
Well, as I told you a little bit earlier, we're actually running a webinar here in another half hour or so on discussing, the experiences I've had as a remote employee. I'm trying not to use, terms that have been used over and over again, but I'm going to walk through some of the steps that I do as a remote employee, things like protecting my laptop, ensuring the Wi-Fi networks I connect to are protected, even things like, personal VPNs and that sort of thing. So, sitting in a coffee shop, the vulnerabilities that go along with that.
I don't know if anyone's sitting in coffee shops anymore.
Right. But, unprotected
But we
Wi-Fi.
will again one day. I hope. I miss my sitting in coffee shops. Dan, let me bring up this whole issue of VPNs, though, because I've seen, back and forth on it during the current situation where some people are saying, look, there are, so for instance, we've seen small DDoS attacks aimed specifically at VPNs. Right, looking to bring them down. We've seen other folks saying, VPNs are getting overwhelmed in using the current, especially personal VPNs that aren't meant for the kind of traffic that we're seeing now. Others say, look, and before we get into that, as I mentioned earlier, VPNs are great when you're going back to the mothership, but if the resources you're accessing aren't at the mothership, they're kind of redundant and out of the way. Other people, though, say, look, still the safest way to be accessing.
If you think about the way the cloud has changed things, so I'm sitting here on my personal laptop or a laptop. I do not have a VPN client on this laptop because 99% of what I need to get to is cloud-based. So I don't need to traverse the mothership. So I'm not an administrator. I don't have any technology roles within the company. However, if I did have a technology role and I needed to get to that mothership, a VPN is still the best way to go. I've seen some blog posts in the last couple of weeks about remote administration without a VPN. Wow, I really can't support that idea. Port 22 or port 3389. You can see where people scan the internet, give me the entire subnet and looking for open 3389. If you find one open, you hit it with password spraying. I just don't want my infrastructure exposed to that, even if I have security controls to prevent someone getting beyond that.
Agreed. You know, I'll be honest with you. I also have a laptop, obviously, and as I mentioned to you, I'm usually on the road at least twice a month, or anywhere in the world. I do have a VPN client on my laptop, even though 100% of what we access is cloud-based. We don't. I keep paper towels and toilet paper when we have toilet paper in the server closet in our office. Right, that's what we use it for. We don't have any servers, but. The only time I really use my VPN client is if I'm international and I'm accessing like Netflix or NFL.com and I want to watch a game, you know.
When you need a good proxy, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. When I need to proxy out of the U.S. or something. But and I pay every month for it.
Like you can sit in that, you can sit in that coffee shop, and if you think about the security of Wi-Fi, there's nothing to guarantee that the coffee shop's Wi-Fi is the coffee shop's Wi-Fi. Someone can pull up out front and clone that and capture all your traffic. But if you encrypt it from the client forward, it doesn't matter.
You know what happened to me at Black Hat in 2005?
You turned on a Wi-Fi at Black Hat?
Well, no. So this was, I did it. What it was, so this is 2005. I was using, I think it was the iPhone 3. Back then. It was an early iPhone. And the way, I didn't know it at the time, but the way the iPhone back then was configured, because Apple is Apple, that if, in trying to make it easy to connect, if you had connected to an SSID with, like, say, the name Linksys, the next time it saw an SSID, Linksys, it automatically connected. Didn't even tell you. It just automatically connected by default.
Even if it was unencrypted.
Yeah, by default. This is, again, look, this is 15 years ago. So my friggin' phone attaches to a Wi-Fi I don't even know, right? And there you go. The rest, as they say, was a very ugly history. Yeah. And, it compounded because I wasn't password smart back then. Used same password on multiple sites.
And DEF CON, though, is no Wi-Fi, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Wi-Fi, especially over a phone, was relatively, maybe it may have even been before 2005, 2004, 5, something like that. It was relatively still new. I learned my lesson. I haven't done it since. Anyway, man.
I remember going to those conferences back in the days when you could actually take the battery out of a phone.
Exactly.
So, take the battery out before you.
I would, or leave your phone up in the room and keep it off, right? I started doing that for a long time. You live and learn. Anyway, Dan, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for joining us here on Techstrong TV.
Thank you.
Keep fighting the good fight at One Identity. We need this kind of stuff more than ever right now.
Excellent. Will do. Thanks, Alan.
All right, Dan Conrad from One Identity, talking about a little bit password hygiene and security here on Techstrong TV. This is Alan Schimmel. We'll be right back.
ContainerJournal.com is the leading online destination for centralized computing-related content. ContainerJournal.com covers all aspects of software containers, from container management, data management for containers, container security, networking for containers, to the entire container ecosystem, Kubernetes, microservices, serverless, and more. ContainerJournal.com has the largest selection of container-related news, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.containerjournal.com to learn more. ContainerJournal.com is operated by MediaOps Inc., the team behind DevOps.com, Digital Anarchist, SecurityBoulevard.com, DevOps Connect, and DevOpsDozen.com.
Hey everyone, back here in the studio for Techstrong TV. Our next interview is with a friend of mine who I both admire and respect, Sandeep Chauri. Sandeep is the CEO of Tricentis. Sandeep, prior to Tricentis, has a long well-documented, successful career in Silicon Valley. He is just one of the nicest gentlemen, most intelligent folks you're going to meet. And, I I had the pleasure of meeting Sandeep and his wife at an Insight Ignite event in Iceland, about a year and a half ago, maybe now. And I really enjoyed my time with both Sandeep and his wife. Just gentlemen in every sense of the word. And, when we were in San Francisco, I called him up. I said we were going to be filming at RSA. If he was in town, would he mind stopping by and maybe doing a little interview? Because Tricentis is not necessarily the kind of company would go to RSA. No problem, he said. And sure enough, he came down and we had a chance to sit and chat and catch up and talk a little bit about the state of testing, continuous testing, testing automation, testing market. A real pleasure always to speak to Sandeep. This is my interview with him. He's gonna. If you're interested in testing, Sandeep is someone you should talk to. And Tricentis has become the leader in this continuous testing, automated testing market. So let me bring you Sandeep Jauhari, CEO of Tricentis.
This is Digital Anarchist at RSA San Francisco 2020.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, CEO of MediaOps, continuing our live coverage on day one here at RSA Conference. We are broadcasting live on Broadcast Alley here in Moscone West, and I hope you've enjoyed our full day of coverage today. We were also broadcasting over at the Qualys Security Conference at the Four Seasons, and hopefully you'll have a chance to watch those interviews as well. But right now, I really have a very special guest who made the drive down here to RSA, really to just have a chance to catch up with him. Sandeep Jauhari.
Yeah.
You pronounce it better than me.
Yeah. Sandeep Jauhari, CEO Tricentis.
Well, I know you're
Yeah.
the CEO of Tricentis. Most of our audience on the DevOps side of the house, of course, is very familiar with Tricentis. Really one of the pioneers and leaders in the continuous testing, automated testing aspect of DevOps. But as security becomes more and more ingrained in DevOps and we see more automated security testing, a company like Tricentis is a company you'll be hearing more and more about. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good, Alan. I'm doing good.
So, a lot of our audience, as I mentioned, a lot of our audience coming in today is from the security side of the house. Mm-hmm. And Tricentis may or may not be a company they're familiar with. Mm-hmm. Now, I know it may be old news, because you put out press release and everything, but give them an idea of Tricentis in terms of scale, how big a company, revenue, whatever you're comfortable with.
So, well, let me start off with telling you what we do. We are a continuous testing platform. We are an end-to-end platform that does basically anything that an enterprise would need for their application testing. That's at the end of the day. We focus primarily on test management, test creation, optimizing that, automating the tests, and then all for the functional testing part of it, but we also have a load and performance testing. So from an application point of view, it's really a very complete platform, and we're now recognized as the leader in the space. We have been now for 5 years in a row by Gartner and many of the other analysts, and we're about 800 people worldwide. We operate in the US, in most of Europe, and then in Asia, in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, India. So that's our footprint, global footprint, about 1,800 customers. Wow. Most of them are large enterprises, and these are some of the largest banks, the largest insurance companies, telcos, and the like. So that's what we are about. Continuous testing is just very fundamental to DevOps, because as we all know, the term DevOps was kind of invented by a tester because he couldn't stand these guys fighting with each other, Dev and Ops people fighting with each other. So it should have been really Dev Test Ops, or actually the same thing true for security as well. And people talk about DevSecOps because you really have to have security and testing fully integrated into DevOps, otherwise it doesn't really work. So
absolutely. And that's a funny story that you mentioned that. I never put it together, that Patrick was in testing and so forth.
Yeah, Patrick.
And so DevSecOps has become a thing. We did for the 5th year in a row, we did our DevSecOps event here at Moscone on the Monday of RSA week. We had about 900 people yesterday upstairs. Spend a day with us. Really, we had some great speakers. Dev test stops, maybe because testing people don't have the ego that security people did. They never demanded that we put test in the middle of the dev and the ops. But nevertheless, it has become really central. Like when you look at your software development pipeline, right? You have you do your architecture, you start putting code in, you commit code to a repository, right? Along that continuous integration, process, of course, testing is first and foremost right in there. No one is going to put anything out without testing.
Not for a large enterprise anyway. So.
I don't even know if small companies would do. I mean,
well, and small companies do other things. They do testing in the wild and things like that. They're trying out new things. But you're right. You can't really, at the end of the day, you can't ship software, whether it's an application at a business or otherwise, that has not been tested thoroughly.
Right. So. And then, of course, with DevOps, though, it wasn't just testing. It became this concept of continuous testing. Automated testing, two different things, right? Continuous meaning we iterate, we test, we iterate, we test, we keep testing. Automated meaning that we're going so fast, right, in terms of pushing the code and so forth, that we really can't have humans sitting here writing tests or conducting them by hand. And that's where Tricentis has made its mark. In the automation of this continuous testing process.
Yeah, so our core differentiator is that we have a very resilient automation. So the concept of automating testing is not new.
No.
People have tried to automate for a long time. The challenge has been that when you automate using scripts, one, it becomes expensive because you're essentially writing complex code to test code which was complex to begin with. Secondly, scripts tend to be fragile. And when you have, and that was okay when you had long release cycles and long test cycles were okay. When you have rapid release cycles where you have enterprises trying to release things every week, every day, you can't have fragile scripts because you then spend a lot more time testing the scripts and fixing the scripts, so you've kind of defeated the purpose of automating. So what we have is a very resilient, we have a model-based test automation engine that once you build your automated tests, they're very resilient to not breaking build to build. And what we really do when you talked about continuous testing and automated testing, well, you need one for the other. If you don't have automation, you can't really get to continuous testing. But continuous testing is really about kind of getting your testing at the end of the day to be at the same cadence as your dev and your release cycles. We have customers that have gone from 8 and 10 week test cycles to the point where they've automated all the known good and bad scenarios, and they do daily tests. So they do a daily build, and associated with that build, at the end of the day, they run automated tests on a daily basis, even though in this example, their release cycle is 2 weeks. So they're not waiting for the 2 weeks and then running all the tests. They want to run the tests. In this case, continuous means daily.
Right.
They run it daily, so by the time you get to pre-release, you're really testing the edge cases. You won't be caught by surprise. So you need automation for continuous testing, but continuous testing is really about integrating it into your CI/CD toolchain and running it at the same cadence as your build cycle.
Yeah. Because, think about it. In today's world, let's say you're on a 2-week release cycle, as you say. If you're going to wait till the end of that 2-week release cycle to first do your testing, and now you're always going to find things.
Right.
Now you're going to find things, and now you're at that dreaded position of, do I release it with this bug or issue, and fix it post-release on my next go-around in 2 more weeks?
Yeah.
Do I have to do an out-of-cycle fix for it? Or do I say I'm not doing my 2-week release because I got to push and fix this?
Right.
So to wait those 2 weeks, and look, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm guilty. I've been in organizations where that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
Right? We were supposed to do a release, and we waited till the end to do the testing, and invariably we delayed the releases.
Right.
Or we pushed out stuff that wasn't really
Right.
the best that it could have been.
And we see a lot of that. What ends up happening is when you talk about DevOps or DevSecOps, what enterprises are doing is they're beginning to adopt those methodologies. One of the first things they do is they start reorganizing their dev teams to be more agile. Whatever methodology they're using, but the idea being that they're more agile. And then they realize that unless they tackle testing, you haven't really gained anything. Because sure, you can take your dev team from 3 weeks build cycles to a daily build cycle, but if your test cycle is still 3 weeks because you haven't automated and you do it at the end, then that becomes your release constraint. So what we find is as customers start maturing on their agile kind of maturity
Evolution.
and on their agile evolution, they quickly realize that you can build faster with agile, but you can't ship faster unless you've fully integrated testing to be at the same cadence.
Right.
It could be a combination of manual and automated, but the more automated it is, the easier it is for you to have it at the same cadence.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. Let me get off of continuous testing and talk business for a little bit. So you gave us a lot of information on size, and you guys recently reached a huge milestone revenue-wise, kind of milestone where companies start thinking about perhaps IPO and stuff like that. Now, for those who don't know, the company was originally founded in Austria.
In Austria, yeah, Vienna, Austria.
In Vienna, and you're a Silicon Valley veteran through and through, and so we have sort of dual headquarters, if you will, or dual centers, but it's a world. You have offices all over the place as well. What's new with Tricentis? Where can people find out more? The conference. I know you put on usually a big conference here in the U.S.
Yeah, we have 2 big conferences every year. Actually, I should talk about 3 sets of conferences. We have 2 user conferences. Most of our customers are large enterprises.
Right.
They're based in the 3 geos that I talked about. But we have 2 conferences. We do one in San Francisco. This year it's called Accelerate. The whole point about what we're talking about, you can't accelerate without continuous testing. So the conference is named Accelerate. And we have it this year in San Francisco on April 29th and 30th. And then we have our European conference, which is the largest testing conference in Europe, in November. And you can go to our website and all the information is there. We have a great set of speakers. We run a conference with all the partners coming. We had over 1,000 people last year, and we expect to double that this year.
Wow.
Now, in addition to those, we have a huge community of testers that have certified on our platform, and we just crossed 100,000 testers as well who are certified. I think we are at a level of 110, if I remember right. And a lot of them happen to be in India because a lot of the delivery centers are in India, and that's where they do manual testing. So we have over 65,000 testers that have now certified on our automation platform. So we always do a user conference in India. We do 2-day user conference, one in Pune and one in Bangalore, and those are going to be held in June, in the second week of June, right?
I'm in Bangalore, actually a little later in June. I was going to be in Bangalore. I'd love to stop by. I'm actually going for a DevOps India Summit.
Okay.
DOIS.
Okay. Well, we'll compare dates, and if we can have you. We had over 2,500 people last year at the
numbers
conference.
are incredible.
So, and all our partners, Accenture, Wipro, Infosys, TCS, they all have 40,000 testers each, so it's a big
thing.
Yeah.
This conference I ran over here to meet with you on, I was at the Qualys Security Conference. They've moved their entire R&D and engineering team to Pune. And so they have about 750 folks in Pune working, on including testing.
You were asking about our footprint. Yeah, we started in Austria, Vienna, and that's where everyone was. And over the years, we have grown. So now we have, from a business point of view, we do more than 50% of our business in the U.S. About 40% or so in EMEA, and then 10 to 15% in APAC. But in terms of people, we have a big team in Vienna, obviously. We have teams in Budapest and in Poland. We also have a team in Pune. And then in the US, we mostly have, we don't have engineering teams here,
More
but,
marketing,
but
sales.
more marketing, sales, customer success, all of that. So we really become a very, very truly global company. You can't say that it's kind of dual or triple. We really have,
it's all over.
Yeah, our largest two offices are Atlanta in the US.
Really?
And,
I didn't realize.
Yeah, and Vienna. So sorry.
No.
Yeah.
That's actually very similar to the distribution of DevOps.com readers.
Uh-huh.
So about 37% are US, about 31% are Europe, 14% are India.
Wow.
And then the rest of the world, Australia is a decent, Brazil, Mexico. But that's the world we live in today, right? And here at the security conference, everybody's worried about the coronavirus.
Right.
And I tell people, the world's so small today, we can't build walls to keep out computer viruses or people viruses. Right? It's just, we're that connected, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Sandeep, I want to thank you for coming down. What about any new releases, anything people can go check out if they're listening to this or watching after?
So one of the most exciting things is we have been investing a lot in our AI engine. How can you take AI to really take testing to the next level? And we showcased that AI engine. It's called Neo. We showcased that at our Accelerate in November in Vienna, and we'll be releasing it shortly. But it is absolutely incredible. We were looking for a few beta customers that can help our engine learn and get smarter, and we landed up getting 5x of that, where customers were just willing to sign up. So we are very excited. The Neo engine would have learned 500,000, about between 0.5 and 1 million UI elements, and therefore can actually will be able to tackle almost any application you throw at it, because it is smart enough to now recognize all the interfaces and know what to do with it. So that's one of the most exciting things. Yeah,
this really does change the game.
And the other piece that we are very excited about is Tricentis Analytics with test management, change management, automated testing, manual testing, and exploratory testing. All of that, whether you're using commercial tools or open source tools, we pull it all into analytics, and now you have a single pane of glass to look at the quality of your software and the release readiness.
So to me, I remember when DevOps first really started catching on, one of the things we heard from the testing industry and the testing professional was, oh my God, is this going to be the end of my career? We're going to automate and continuous everything, and we don't need test people anymore. But really, number one, it's knowing what to automate and how to automate it. But number two, even with AI and how smart it is, that can help you pick what test to run. But that analytics is such an important piece of it. And it's really it's made for people, right? Because this way we can slice and dice our views, figure out what we're seeing here, right? Beyond just the data or raw data. So I think, for test people out there, that's where you want to make your bones, right?
That's right.
You want to get into these analytics and understand that, because the AI piece of it is only going to get better. The automation of it is going to get better.
Right.
That's where people
getting intelligence out of the analytics. And we the reason we have these 65,000 people in India and 110,000 worldwide, our call to action to manual testers is that the idea or the need for testing doesn't go away. You need to upskill yourself away from kind of manual testing tools and become an automation specialist. And we, as an example, we and others can actually help them become automation specialists so that they can do these other things. Testing doesn't get eliminated.
No.
It's just, but however, the people that used to test manually need to upskill.
Absolutely. Sandeep, thank you.
Great. Wonderful.
If you haven't heard of them before, check out Tricentis.com. They as my friend said, they are the leaders in continuous automated testing. Even if you're a security person, believe me when I tell you that security testing is going to become synonymous with the kinds of testing. It's only a matter of time. You're probably already doing it. Starting to incorporate security testing into the kinds of tests that companies like Tricentis are doing. So check it out. But for now, this is going to make a wrap of our day one here at RSA Security. This is Alan Schimmel for MediaOps, DevOps.com, Security Boulevard on Digital Anarchist. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
I got the burgers. I went to Bun Barn, Beef Patty Palace, Tomato Town.
Oh, thanks for getting all this, honey.
Yeah, no problem. Getting all of it just took about 2 hours.
I just wish there was an easier way to get all your burger fixings from one place, you know?
Wow.
Dad, you didn't go to Mayo King?
You know our car doesn't fit in their drive-thru. I went to Mustard Chef.
I hate this burger.
He also went to ketchup.
When you're building something using components that don't work together easily, things could get ugly, fast. You wouldn't live like this, so don't make your DevOps team live like this.
This lack of burger cohesion is hard on all of us, Cheryl.
GitLab is the only single application for the entire DevOps lifecycle.
All right, back here at the Techstrong TV studio. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Sandeep and from Tricentis. He, as I mentioned, just one of the finer people you're going to meet in this industry. Our next interview is another new company to the media ops world. The name of the company is called DeviceBits. And I spoke to their CEO founder, JC Ramey. DeviceBits, it's funny, JC will tell you, when him and his co-founder started the company, their idea was to automate the call centers out of existence. Instead, what they've done is enable call centers to be more efficient, better, more able to deal with remote situations like we're going through now. And in fact, they were actually bought by a call center operation, so karma comes into play there. But anyway, JC and team have developed a bunch of chatbots and other customer automation type of processes which allow call centers to handle higher volume, and not just call centers, all customer service, to handle higher volume, get customers their information that they need faster, and deal with issues. So it's interesting, this whole COVID-19 thing is having this is one of the companies that's doing well in this. So let's hear what JC has to say. JC Ramey of DeviceBits.
This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, Techstrong TV on the Digital Anarchist Network, and we're back. This next guest is JC Ramey of DeviceBits, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and the company. JC, welcome to Techstrong TV.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks everybody for having us. We're excited to share a little bit about what we're doing today.
Fantastic. First of all, appreciate the background there. It looks like it's a nice sunny day, and it's good to be outside with everyone working from home, quite frankly. So enjoy the fresh air, man. Absolutely. So, JC, why don't we first introduce DeviceBits and then kind of your role at DeviceBits?
Sure. So I founded DeviceBits back in 2015 with another gentleman who's our CTO, Brian Tebow. With really the idea of transforming the way consumers buy and adopt products and services that the major brands out there launch. A little irony behind my story, when we first launched DeviceBits, our whole idea was, hey, we can put the call centers out of business. We can teach everybody to self-serve, right? We can automate all of this. And so we went on this journey from 2015, really started in the telecom space, got really heavy in mobility and wireless telecom, and then to fixed line telecom, and then into the cable market, and then obviously consumer market, and now healthcare and many other vertical markets. But what we do, we build a customer experience platform. We really started with this intelligent knowledge base that had the ability to learn the customer journeys and improve it for each and every customer. And from those journeys, we then launched a bot product that actually is split, and we'll probably talk about it a bit today, between supporting consumers on the front end, but also supporting those agents in the call centers as a coach on their desktop.
So let's just make sure we got this straight for the audience, because sometimes, from Security Boulevard, we use the word bot, and it doesn't have great connotations, right? But when you're using the word bot, you're really talking about sort of automated attendance and automated call center type of functionality, right? Whether you want to call it artificial intelligence or machine learning or what have you, but that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the blend of the sort of the conversational on the front end. What's the customer saying, and how do we interpret that into a defined process on the back end? So more of your traditional RPA type technologies as well. So bleeding those two together into what we call hybrid bots.
Yep. Excellent. So, like everyone else in the world, I assume that this working from home and locking down a flatten the curve thing has had a tremendous impact on call centers.
Yes, for sure. So, the irony behind our story. So we actually were acquired by a call center about a year ago. And so we went from this idea of we were going to put the call centers out of business to now, how do we transform this industry that's in desperate need of some innovation and some new approaches to serving customers, to improving the customer experience.
Yep. So meet the new boss, same as the old boss, in terms of that. But so well, first of all, we should note that, look, some of the more advanced call centers have been doing their call center work with a distributed remote workforce. Right, not everyone is in some crowded room in Costa Rica or India or the Philippines, right, where there's 100 people on the phone. So some call centers are used, this is old hat for them working remote.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's what even those folks are being challenged with, because I would tell you a lot of those operate with some in office and some work from home. A lot of that is dictated by the client requirements, and so we've had to pivot overnight, really, to how do we move all these people at home. And it's not just us pivoting, right? It's the client pivoting, because there's very specific reasons they want us in a center if we are in a center. So absolutely, it's a model that we're used to. But now all of a sudden, when you're 100% work at home, there's a whole lot of new challenges that present themselves.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit. What do you guys, so these are the challenges that people are having as we move to a sort of all remote model. How are you guys helping?
Yeah, so, I think one of the things that's really tough right now is when obviously show rates or, the number of people that can actually get to the center started to decline. What we found is we needed to really overstaff, right? Because people were relatives were becoming ill, people were quarantining themselves or, practicing their own social distancing or not wanting to go to work, and understandably. And so, our first set was to really build a coach for agents. So we took really 20 programs within our company and said, hey, how can we build a coach to more rapidly enable, we call it time to proficiency. How do we accelerate the time to proficiency for people that we can bring in and hire, get them stood up with a laptop to take home and work? And so the bot that we built for them is really a coach. So, it's hard to believe, but inside of a lot of call centers, the method of exchange is still, I instant message someone or I raise my hand when I need assistance. Well, now I have this coach always available for me. And I think, what a lot of people are surprised about is when you empower an agent to have that sort of cushion, right? That soft landing. Hey, I'm new, I'm nervous, I don't want to say hello, right? Or a customer's yelling at me. I now have kind of on-demand backup there to assist me through that call.
Excellent. And I guess I should add, is this being used just by the call center company that you guys wound up being acquired by, or does this go out across?
Good question. So we are still a standalone company. So we are deployed. We probably are partnered with about 15 to 20 different call center providers, or what they call BPOs in the industry. And so while ours is a large user, ironically enough, our company is a large user, they're not the largest user. We have a much larger user, in fact. And that's driven through one of our direct-to-client relationships. So one of our wireless carriers has put a mandate out that all of their partners need to use this technology.
Got it. So, JC, you guys are just, I mean, you're putting out there what you've been doing, right? Now, what can you kind of rush to the front lines? I'm not asking you to make ventilators or anything, but what can you rush to the, no, yeah. What can we rush to the, what are you guys trying to bring to the forefront, maybe new functionality that you could see helping people or your client base in these situations?
Yeah, so about 2 weeks ago, we launched a program for our existing clients, and then about a week later, we opened it up to new clients because we got our existing on board. But it's this quick start program, so it is not only preceding sort of a knowledge base or a self-service channel for them with COVID-specific questions. What are we doing to resolve? What are we doing to protect ourselves? What are we doing for our customers? But also taking some of their top call types. So what are the big things customers are calling about now? Well, there's a lot of billing stuff happening. There's always a lot of billing stuff, but there's an exponential amount of billing stuff happening right now because people are losing their jobs and things. And obviously companies are stepping up to the plate and offering to keep people connected, to keep their phones on, to keep their internet on, which they should. And so how do we get that information out or disseminate that information? And so we can, in a matter of one day, stand up an entire knowledge center for them. So imagine a destination that's on a mobile app or a website that has all of the top questions that customers are asking, even some how-to explainer type material. We call them tutorials to show customers how to do things. If we need them to configure something or log into their account and change something, we can demonstrate that visually as well. And what that does is that offloads some of the volume that would come into the call center. So take those low-hanging fruit, those kind of simple calls, and let's try to get the customer to self-serve, and then eventually maybe even automate some of that. And what we are left with are what we coin internally as the train wrecks, right? So the calls that come in are just really complex, and you need somebody on the other end of the phone to help you as a consumer.
Makes sense, man. I guess one of the questions then becomes for me, you put all this functionality in place, things start working, and it sounds like what you really do. I mean, you're making these call centers more efficient in many ways, right? By automating a lot of this stuff. Do things ever go back to normal, or does that become the new normal, JC?
Well, I think that's what's interesting, right? I think we're all getting a boost here, right? All of us that have been in this market for a while around automation and bots, so on and so forth, we now get a boost in the market to actually get this rolled out, to gain adoption, to accelerate what companies were thinking about, to actually putting it in practice now. And so I think it's here to stay. I think, much like I'm sure a lot of people believe work from home will now have a much greater adoption. You're going to see a lot of this take hold and really be around for the long haul.
I agree. We're seeing it. I mean, we run DevOps.com, right? So we obviously talk to a lot of people around DevOps and stuff. Companies that were already sort of on that automation train, right? That were already trying to automate processes, that were already being a little more agile and nimble, seem to be faring better than companies that weren't, quite frankly, right? Companies that, just were holding off on their digital transformations and stuff like that are just, this is a cold splash of water in the face real quick.
Oh yeah. I mean, when you talk about if you're a week behind this, right? So you're not prepared for this to happen, which many of us weren't. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of customer requests that come in a week. So how are you servicing those customers? That 1 week is a hole that's going to take you some time to get out of, right? It creates a bad reputation, poor customer experience, all of the things that we've spent a lot of years, especially in telecom, trying to improve, right? It's an industry that's always under attack from an NPS or customer sat perspective. So, I think the other thing that's interesting that we're seeing, and so I mentioned the knowledge piece and the self-service, but then when you start talking about chatbots, not only will chatbots start to get adopted more, but how it's delivered, right? So, okay, we're used to going to the web and either chatting with someone, a real human, or now we're getting used to chatting with a bot. But when you talk about volumes and trying to control volumes into the center, asynchronous messaging channels becomes critical. And so it's another piece where we support our customers in rolling out a messaging solution for this. So it doesn't just have to be web chat. You can think Apple Business Chat, WhatsApp, Facebook, where I'm not expected to reply to you immediately, right? I can kind of control or throttle the conversation. And so I can, everybody's talking about flattening the curve. Sorry. We can kind of flatten that call volume curve by doing asynchronous messaging as part of our channel.
It's interesting you mentioned that. So forget the call center even for a while. I think what's happening as a result of the Slacks and the instant messaging and the Zooms and all of this stuff, a lot of people who aren't used to operating in this asynchronous mode, as you call it, are really struggling. And the thing about it is, if you're not used to operating in that, you stick out like a dinosaur in a zoo, right? Because it's just like, hey man, I just Slacked you, I just instant messaged you. Why are you taking 10 minutes to get back to me, man? Get on the ball.
Right, and that's automation is critical there, right? Because we can start to automate the front end of that conversation and set some expectations that, hey, I'm going to go work on this. I'll get back to you as soon as I have an answer. And then an hour can go by, and that's the expectation.
Right. So it is. I think, again, a new normal is people's expectation. But this is something that's gone, right? People were bitching and moaning that their internet wasn't working at 35,000 feet on the plane. It was a little too slow for them to stream, right? But people's expectation is they want it and they want it now. And that communication level with a call center or whatever also has to be now. And it's a problem, but it's not a problem. This is the new real. This is the new now. And companies that can deliver that kind of experience will thrive, and companies that don't won't.
Right. I think what's interesting. Yeah, I agree. And I think what's interesting is, we're no longer compared to our peer, right? So whether, for us, our peers are obviously software technology companies, but we're all now compared to the best experience we had. That best experience could be Walmart, right? It could be Amazon. Amazon has a pretty good experience most of the time. But I'm held to that same standard, even though I'm not even in the same ballpark as a company as far as competition goes with those folks. But that is the customer experience I expect. So to your point, they want it now, and they want the same experience they just had an hour ago, no matter if it was McDonald's or Amazon or Walmart.
I think that's it. I think the other thing is, so maybe this is my own personal prejudice because I'm older, right? When I used to first get on to like automated messenger or automated chat or, call center kind of stuff, when I recognized it as an automated thing, I would get like, I would just be like, representative, on the phone, because I want to bypass this shit. Excuse my language. I want to bypass all that. I want to get right to a real person. But I found out the hard way that sometimes those automated ones wind up saving you a lot more time and aggravation than getting someone on the phone who may not be as bright as you think they are.
That's right. Yeah, you're going into a general care queue at that point versus maybe a specialty queue that you might need. So absolutely. I mean, and I think, we designed those sort of IVR and automated systems sort of too far, and now we've pulled them back, right? So now you have companies out there who are claiming, direct to a person, right? Or, they're trying to remove the number of steps or key presses you have to get there because they know it's frustrating. But at the end of the day, you circumvent technology that could create a better experience for you as a consumer.
Excellent. Hey, JC, we're about out of time, but I just realized I don't even think we gave people the address, your URL, where they get more information about your company. Where can they go?
Yeah, so we are at DeviceBits, that's DeviceBits.com. And then, our parent company is the Results Company. So if anybody out there is interested in really a leading edge, somebody that's investing in customer experience, automation, AI, Results has made a number of moves, strategic moves in this space. And I think, what's interesting about that is you get all of the horsepower of 25,000 call center agents and that data that's behind it to start to build out automation and AI and even ML models, even though some ML models don't pan out that we do. You now have a sufficient amount of data to really go out and do something impactful with that type of horsepower behind it.
Excellent, man. Thanks for joining us, JC Rainey from Device. I was going to say Device Bits. No. Device Bits. It's getting late in the day. I got you, man. Hey, keep up the great work, and we'll be in touch with you. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you all.
All right, JC Rainey from Device Bits. This is Alan Schimmel for Techstrong TV. We'll be right back. Okay, Alan Schimmel back here at Techstrong TV. Hope you enjoyed the interview with JC. Now it's time for our daily sort of news refresh or summary of what we see out on our media ops site. A couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. One was an article that I highlighted earlier this week by Shamim Ahmed from Broadcom, and it's called Shift Right Testing, the Emergence of Test Ops. And I highlighted it earlier this week, but I got to tell you, this entire week it was picked up by Google News and Android News and a few others, and it's, I don't know how many tens of thousands of hits this article has received already, but it really, I think it struck a nerve with people, and if you want to call it test ops or not, I think people are getting it, and they understand, and it's ringing true. So I'm going to re-highlight that one and ask you to please go check out that article on DevOps.com. It's a really good article. I also wanted to highlight, our friend Bob Resselman, who's with ASG as well as Accelerated Strategies Group, has been doing the RollBob cartoons, probably 3 or 4 years with us now. And he had one this week that also went a little bit viral, and it's called the DevOps Lifecycle. Bob, you got to be a nerd to appreciate Bob's humor in these things, because he's one of us, right? And every usually once a week, once every 2 weeks, he writes something. It may not appeal to the broader audience, but for geeks like us, it hits home. And this DevOps Lifecycle cartoon did so. Check that one out. I should also mention, with all the noise around Cobalt, the governor of New Jersey said they'd like to update their unemployment system as so many people are applying for unemployment. It's clogging, overwhelming the system. But they don't have COBOL engineers to do it. The system's in COBOL, and it as a result, one of the articles Bob's written some time ago about COBOL and the beauty of the COBOL programming language has all of a sudden resurfaced and been getting a lot of hits. What's old is new. And there's still, if you can program COBOL, there's still a lot of jobs out there for you. So do go check out. Those are some of the highlights I wanted to bring you from DevOps.com. Let me also, as I mentioned, I think it was in yesterday's show, Security Boulevard has just been viewers through the roof with this COVID thing, and I obviously it's because of all the cybersecurity incidents and pandemic that we've seen, coming out of the COVID pandemic. But again, leading the list this week in our site, in our Security Boulevard sites, were articles dealing with Zoom and security. So Zoom recordings exposed. Using Zoom, here are the privacy issues you need to be aware of. And then one that, when I first looked, I said, well, this was written by a Cisco person, but it wasn't. But it was someone who, obviously not a big Zoom fan, but comparison of WebEx security versus Zoom shady practices. I don't endorse that necessarily. I use Zoom. But anyway, just a couple of the Zoom articles I wanted to recommend out to you guys to check out. And then last but certainly not least, couple of articles on Container Journal. One is Kubernetes finally emerging its application phase, or is finally entering its application phase. And we've been waiting for this, right? Kubernetes kind of lays the groundwork for killer apps. What's the killer apps that Kubernetes coming? And I think we're starting to see that. So go check out Container Journal. Lastly, I wanted to just once again mention our 200 some odd podcast over at, actually it's 285, almost 300 podcasts over on SoundCloud in our DevOps chats. The newest one just came out this morning, and it's with a company called Adea, Swiss Simple Secure Collaboration. I'm actually probably going to invite Francois Rodriguez from Adea to do a Zoom interview with us next week, so you'll get to meet him here on Techstrong TV. But do go listen to that podcast. It was a good one. There's another good one with Daniel Spoonhour from Lightstep that's fairly recent, as well as Darren James from Spec Ops, who was on yesterday's Techstrong TV with a video as well. So really good stuff there on the DevOps chat. You don't have to listen to them on SoundCloud. They're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all the usual suspects for listening to SoundCloud or to audio podcast. Anyway, that's our wrap up for the news. Let's not make it too heavy. We all got a long weekend coming up. We'll be home, get some fresh air, some exercise, some downtime. And again, I worked from home for 13 years before starting Media Ops. It's so important that you have an on-off switch when you're working from home. You can't just be on all the time. You gotta step away. You gotta have some downtime. You gotta have some family time, some you time. Try to get some fresh air, and of course in a very socially distanced way. These next 2 weeks are going to be tough. But let's get through this. Let's all get through it together and healthy. And and we'll go from there. All right. Next up on Techstrong TV, it's that time of the day where we hand things over to our managing editor, Charlene O'Hanlon. And Charlene has a good interview coming up, right? And that is with Cato Networks announcing some major funding. So, Charlene, take it away.
Welcome, everybody. This is Charlene O'Hanlon. I'm the managing editor at Media Ops, which produces DevOps.com, Container Journal, Security Boulevard, the digital Anarchist video platform, and now Techstrong TV. I'm very excited today to be speaking with Yishay Yuval, who is President, CEO. I didn't ask your title there.
I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Cato Networks.
All right, great. Yes, Cato Networks, which is SD-WAN infrastructure. And Cato just came off a $77 million funding round. So congratulations, Yishay.
Thank you very much.
Great. So tell me a little bit about your company, first of all, when you were founded, where you're located, what your value proposition is, and all that good stuff.
Sure. So we have been around since 2015. We are headquartered in Israel, but we have a global operation, kind of almost follow the sun 24/7, because we're a mission critical cloud service. And our main value proposition is to deliver essentially a turnkey secure network to businesses from the cloud. Okay? So as a service. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of interesting, our founders are actually coming from the networking and security domain. Our CEO, Shlomo Kramer, was the co-founder of Checkpoint.
Okay.
So he basically created the network security industry with the first firewall back in the 90s. And then he went out and kind of co-founded another company called Imperva, which is a web application firewall company, another first. And then he invested in Palo Alto Networks and other companies. And Cato is his third company. So we have a lot of this legacy understanding of how network and security used to be built. This basically with a lot of appliances, a lot of boxes that are distributed on branches and data centers and other places. And basically that this model no longer works where the enterprise become cloud first, mobile centric, work from home centric when you think about COVID-19, We basically need to have a different operating model that cannot be based on boxes that are placed in physical locations where we need to serve all these users and all these applications all over the world. So we are here to solve this problem with a new architecture, and we can talk about it more as we go along.
Okay, great. So, boy, with Shlomo's background, there's certainly a pedigree there for this type of technology. So that's really great. So, we've been hearing about SD-WAN for quite a number of years now, and I don't know if it's just because maybe the market is just now catching up with it or something. But what is it about SD-WAN that that all of a sudden it seems like there's a lot of movement in this space, and what do you think took so long for the technology to really kind of come into its own?
So I think it's actually kind of the genesis of SD-WAN is that the old technology for building networks called MPLS, it's a telco provided connectivity solution that is very expensive, very rigid, and very bandwidth constrained. It's sold by the megabit, and every megabit is very expensive. So companies buy only what they need, and they're always kind of don't have enough room to grow without paying a lot. So SD-WAN was introduced as a way to combine MPLS with internet lines, which are cheaper, increase overall capacity, lower overall cost, and create more agility and resiliency in the network. And today it's actually running through a mainstream adoption. We're talking about 30–40% already market penetration. This is mainstream technology. But Cato, in fact, is not an SD-WAN company. SD-WAN is a feature. You can see it by the fact that all these market leaders back in 2017, VeloCloud was acquired, Viptela was acquired, and they became a feature within a larger platform. A larger platform that delivers connectivity, security, cloud, mobility to the enterprise. Palo Alto just bought CloudGenix, exactly the same story. This broader vision is what Cato, in fact, is, which is what is Gartner calling the Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE. SD-WAN is a feature of SASE. Why? Because in order to deliver a network that is secure, that supports mobile users, support cloud infrastructure, etc., you need to start with the first step. And the first step is to connect your branches in a more effective way, in a simpler way that solves all the basic problems that I discussed. This is the first step in WAN transformation, wide area network transformation, from an old MPLS model to a model that has better connectivity, less cost, more security, etc. So this is our market. We built this platform, the SASE platform, all the way back to 2015. We didn't have a name for it. So we sold it as a convergence of multiple technologies, multiple requirements into a cloud service, but we didn't call it SASE. Gartner gave it the name, and now that's our play. So it's a long answer, but SD-WAN is the first step in a bigger story that is the change of the network to support the digital business.
That's great. And is that kind of a, gosh, I don't want to call it like a rip and replace proposition, but we're talking about companies that have established traditional networks, and now there is this SASE solution, SASE solution. So what would an enterprise need to do to be able to adopt this particular technology? I mean, is it a rip and replace situation?
So there are two parts to the answer. First of all, yes, it's a different way to consume essentially the same features. So the same firewalling, the same IPS, the same anti-malware, URL filtering, SD-WAN. It's basically consuming them as a single platform instead of 6 or 7 products. So yes, so there is what we call convergence, or the replacement of infrastructure. There are two ways to think about it. One is gradual. So for example, if you want to buy tomorrow a remote access use case from Cato, to use our SASE platform just for remote access to mobile users, you can do that without disrupting the rest of your network. The rest of your network can run, your branches, for example, can run on the previous technology, and you can hand out remote access clients from Cato to your thousands of employees.
Okay.
Not worry about scalability, not worry about sizing, just give them the stuff. You have a use case deployed side by side, don't have to do an all or nothing. The second answer is it really depends on the organization. So if you're a huge bank, you're not going to rip and replace for several reasons. You have massive investments in infrastructure, and you have a lot of people that can run the infrastructure. But if you're a mid to large enterprise, and many of our customers are in the manufacturing space, and they have small teams and big networks and a lot of requirements, we are like a godsend to that. So they actually want to collapse the investments. They actually want to replace a lot of moving parts, which are hard to manage on a day-to-day basis with a small team, with a cloud-based service that does all these things, and it's self-managing. And you don't have to worry about it. You just need to see everything through one console, and you're done. So I think that's our strategy. We are going up market. We're selling to larger and larger customers, that in the trade-off between, oh, I have all these investments, or I have all these products that I like, versus this is going to be so much easier to manage and run with a smaller team, they choose the second versus the first, and that's kind of where we play.
Okay. All right. Great. So does this technology also have any impact on, say, the remote workforce that we're now seeing today with, with organizations kind of dealing with the coronavirus pandemic? Do you guys have a role to play there?
We actually in the middle of it from our customer's perspective. So if you think about our cloud service, it's designed to serve all enterprise edges. An enterprise edge is a branch, a data center, a cloud, or a single user.
Okay.
So we built the platform from 2015 to have a client and now clientless access for individual users that connect to our cloud service, and then from there get securely to where they need to go. An on-prem application, a cloud application with full security and full optimization. So what happened to us in the business, that if a customer of ours, let's say, have 1,000 people, and they bought 100 client licenses, because only 10% of their workforce is mobile or remote. Now they basically got 900 more, gave it to these people that now need to work from home, and suddenly you have 1,000 people connecting to our cloud and accessing other applications. So they literally shifted from the office to home, and all the networking optimization, all the security infrastructure just went along with them. Now, what's nice about it is they did not have to think about scalability and sizing. Okay, I had an appliance that could do 100 users, can it do 1,000? No, so I have to buy another one or a bigger one, and I have to put them globally in Europe and in North America. There's a whole architecture just for remote access. With Cato, none of that mattered. So we have seen in the last 45 days, the user count on our platform went from 15,000 concurrent users on the cloud service to about 40,000 in the span of 45 days. And we are adding between 1,000 and 2,000 users every day. So basically the customers are rolling this out very, very quickly. And we are, again, and we're also selling it to new customers only for that specific reason. Okay. Now, just so you see kind of what it means, think about SD-WAN. SD-WAN is branch technology. Mm-hmm. These are appliances you put in branches to connect them. What happens to your SD-WAN investment when everybody goes to work from home? It basically loses all of its value, okay? All the optimization you built for your network is gone. With a SASE platform where it's a cloud-first architecture, all the brains is in the cloud, all the security is in the cloud, all the optimization in the cloud, it follows the user. The user gets the service when in the office, they go home, they get the same service. This is why this trend, this evolution from multiple point products in appliances and whatever to a converged cloud service is so fundamental to customers.
That's great. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about the latest round of funding that you received. 77 million. That's a pretty impressive number.
Yes, that's our largest round. We raised just over 200 million in total in 5 years. The previous round was 55 million. We're building a company, actually a big company. We are just over 200 people now. We're growing very nicely. We have mission critical and must-have technology. So if customers, we run stuff that is not an option, right? If the customer gets their network on our platform, we are mission critical to them. We are essential to their business. And we have this very unique value proposition, which is we can do all this for you in a simpler, more affordable way. And this is bread and butter. So for example, we are replacement technology. You don't have to find new budget for Cato. The budget exists. It's the money that you spend on your MPLS and your security and your firewalls and all IPSs. All these budgets are basically can be redirected to Cato. So I think when you think about it, this is kind of why, the reason why we are able to raise the funding, because we are selling mission critical stuff into customers that are looking to cut overall costs and increase value on existing spend. That's actually very good. And because we have such a broad value proposition, we are basically taking our time to go up market. We cannot sell to the top Fortune 50 right away, because we're so fundamental and so central to the operation that they have to see that we are actually established players in other layers of the market. So we are growing well. We are growing even within that particular period. We just finished a very strong Q1, and we're seeing increased traction with ever-growing customers that put more and more infrastructure into Cato. And that's basically the story behind the funding, why we're able to raise money and what kind of value we provide to our customers.
That's great. That's great. Well, Yishai, thank you so much for taking a few minutes and talking with me about Cato, about your technology. Good stuff. And I have a feeling you're going to find great success in the months and years ahead.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity, and we'll keep in touch.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love that. All right.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. You too. You too.
Thank you very much, man.
Okay.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Don't hang up.
Don't hang up? Okay.
Yeah. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Techstrong TV.
Disruption is occurring across every aspect of IT. Open source, cloud services, DevOps, and cloud-native software architectures are democratizing IT and radically transforming how business is done. The old ways of creating software and doing IT are being replaced with agile, flexible, faster, and cheaper methods, benefiting vendors and users alike. Accelerated Strategies Group is out to democratize access of industry expertise and knowledge. We use our expertise and experience to offer insightful, intelligent, useful information in a variety of formats relevant to the IT community: digital events, videos, reports, assessments, workshops, and implementation projects with tech vendors, IT organizations, and business leaders. We widely and openly share our work products, often for free. Analyst reports these days aren't worth more than a graph or chart that tells a story or illustrates a market trend. We work with developers, DevOps teams, cloud architects, security engineers, and transformation leaders most every day, creating and implementing transformational strategies and technologies. We're not just thinkers, we're also doers.
Okay, thanks, Charlene. Great interview. Congratulations to Cato Networks. When first company I sold was a web hosting company. I started with a few friends of mine called TriStar Web. And we sold it to Brad Feld, who's a pretty well-known VC that had a foundry group, and Brad's mentor, a guy named Len Fassler, who left an indelible print on my mind. And Len told me something, right? And when I sold to Brad and Len, we then did 30 acquisitions in 36 months. Parker Yates, who works with us here at MediaOps, runs sales, chief revenue officer. Parker and I, that's where we met. The company we put together became known as Interliant and was a .com ASP, application service provider. But Len told me something, and I heard him say it to other people too, and that is, anytime you can get someone to write a check with their hard-earned, valuable money to invest in you because they have faith in you, making that money, turning it into a profit for them, it's such a vote of confidence, and it really means that you've done something well. So to raise $81 million is a real vote of confidence, and congratulations to the Cato Networks folks. Anyway, next up, it's time for Mitch over in the Analyst Quarter, Mitchell Ashley from our Accelerated Strategies group. Mitchell is going to be talking about, we've been doing flash polls on DevOps.com as well as the ASG site. Mitchell's going to give us a little insight into the performance and reliability of cloud as an analysis of what we've got with these flash polls. And then I think Mitchell has another video lined up. He'll tell you about it from the Qualys Security Conference back in February. Anyway, over to Mitchell Ashley at the Analyst Corner.
Well, it is end of the week, and as we talked about earlier this week on Techstrong TV, we launched a flash poll, and that I would be talking about the results of this week's poll on an episode, and today is the day. So we had an interesting response, and thank you everyone for responding. We had over 225, 35 or so people, the number currently is, that responded to the survey. Our focus was on what, if any, have you experienced performance or reliability issues with in terms of tools and services while you're working from home for COVID-19? Now, you may be answering for yourself. You may also be an IT person answering for you and your end users. So it's kind of a broad audience that we're speaking to here. I don't think too surprising is the number one response, which was over 54%, was online meetings. So Zoom, GoToMeeting, WebEx, Google Hangouts, whatever your favorite meeting service might be, BlueJeans, etc. All of those, of course, have seen a huge surge in usage, especially Zoom, or at least that's gotten the most attention from this whole COVID-19 work at home situation. I mean, I had a doctor's appointment pre-scheduled a couple of weeks ago before we were under the COVID-19, stay in place, stay at home order. And the Zoom came up there. I mean, there are people talking about Zoom that have probably never been on or even talked about an online meeting before. So my sense is this is going to be much more prevalent activity for us, online meetings, not just today, but also when things do start to return to whatever the new normal is. Now, 54%, as I mentioned, stated that they had performance or reliability issues. And that's understandable in a surge of service, but there are also some other factors that can be an important determinant in why is it having performance issues, because it's reliant on other parts of technology in the stack that we use to utilize online meetings. Which leads me to number 2 and number 3. The second highest responses were in-home Wi-Fi and internet service provider. Of course, that's what all those meetings are running on, as well as file sharing, collaborating with Slack and Team, email, of course, going across that, sending files. But, oh, by the way, we're in a home. We probably have other family members here. If we have family at home, either younger kids or maybe older kids have come back from college, early adulthood, to spend time at staying in place order at home. So we have all kinds of things happening over our network during the day. We have entertainment, we have videos, we have gaming. I just stepped out for lunch. My daughter and 3 of her friends are working on a crossword puzzle over an online meeting service. And of course, we're doing work, right? And all those things, file transfers, emails, phone, possibly CRM, whatever applications that we're using is all happening over Wi-Fi, which can be very congested in not only your home, but your neighborhood, and then also your service provider. So a little bit about Wi-Fi is something to think about. There are lots of things that you can do to help tune and improve your Wi-Fi service, just to mention to you. And I happen to do some work in the Wi-Fi and broadband industry, doing some testing for Wi-Fi manufacturers. The orientation of your Wi-Fi access point actually makes a big difference. And I'm speaking as to whether you're turning it left or right, pointing it, facing different directions. Because unbeknownst to you as an end user or purchaser of that or receiver of it from your ISP service, the orientation of the device, signal pattern energy that's coming out of a Wi-Fi access point can vary greatly. And I'm not just speaking of movable antennas. I'm talking about the unit itself. So the pattern, if you will, the energy pattern that's coming out of the device could be very strong, kind of spiking out in higher energy forms at different directions. So it may be very directional, and you may get better performance or drop in performance if you shift that around or you put it into a cabinet below, or set it on its side when it's made to sit, flat. That's definitely a consideration, as well as where that Wi-Fi access point is in your house. And is it reaching and servicing all the devices that want to connect to it? Lastly is interference from other Wi-Fi in your neighborhood. Now, if you're in an MDU with lots of other people around you, maybe even one that's constructed out of cement or something like that, that can cause a lot of Wi-Fi issues. But even homes that are, standalone homes separated by, a few feet with some yards, that can make a difference too. So some of your Wi-Fi access points will have the ability to run tests and check for channels that are busy. So that may be an option for you. You have to check the settings and diagnostics of what you have available on your access point. You can also contact your service provider if you've got something like an in-home Wi-Fi through your set-top box, or maybe even a mesh solution from one of the ISPs. The other thing to consider is internet service providers. Now, I think largely it's probably been pretty good, because otherwise we would have heard a lot about this in the news, of a cable company or a fiber company or whoever it might be, having some issues or outages. And really there hasn't been large reports of that. Of course, there's lots of other news dominating at the moment around COVID-19. But I've seen some articles from executives at the cable companies, saying they're happy with the performance that's hold up. I would guess that that's largely true as well. But one thing that can vary greatly is where you're located and what the service is into your home or to your network. You may have fiber to the home. You may also have HFC, hybrid fiber coax, and it depends on where that is in its upgrade life cycle. Most of the networks in the US, at least, have been upgraded to DOCSIS 3.1, or the ability to offer 1 gig service. So, but again, it's a shared medium too, right? We're all talking, it's all going back into a network that's going back into another router. And depending on the capacity of that, that can make a difference as well. You're always good to check with your local service provider. The app that they have often will tell you if there's an outage that you might need to know about. You can also call them for help with performance of your Wi-Fi if that's where you've received it. So the other things, file sharing, voice, CRM, were fairly low. Even email was, about 21%. So significantly different than the top 3 of online meetings, in-home Wi-Fi, and internet service provider. So again, thank you for filling out the survey or the poll, the one question. It's very quick. What's very cool is you get to see your answers thrown in with everybody else that's taken it up to that point. So whether it's 15 respondents or 500, you'll see your answers all combined in there. Of course, they're anonymous. But you get an idea of like, okay, I clicked this as an issue, or this is an opinion. How did that compare with others? And we'll be talking about it again next week on Techstrong TV. So again, thanks for being with us this week. Appreciate you hanging out. I hope you've enjoyed all the content on Techstrong TV. And if you have any feedback about the content, be sure and tell us. And I would especially appreciate any feedback about the Analyst Corner or any of the Accelerated Strategies Group videos that you may have seen by our analysts or panels that we've shown this week. It's been a lot of fun bringing it to you. And I know the Media Ops team has really enjoyed putting together Techstrong TV and looking together for a bright future. So I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, whatever your plans may be. You know, I'm moving from the family room to the basement TV room. I'm not sure what exciting activities we have planned. But whatever you do, be safe, be careful out there, and I hope you be well.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
Hi, this is Mitch Ashley, and I am with Vince Capitelli, correct?
Correct.
And we just finished a roundtable session, and Vince led a very convincing, compelling discussion about a lot of different things. But one of the things you talked about was tying everything back to a business value, some kind of a strategy, some kind of a benefit to the business for digital transformation. You want to share some of your philosophy about that?
Sure. Well, I've been in technology and technology risk management for a number of years, you can imagine. And I'm a big advocate of, it's called the COSO, C-O-S-O model for enterprise risk management. And COSO, their whole methodology and framework is very focused on tying everything down to being aligned with the business. Business purpose, business objectives, business risk. And then translate, if you will, when you start looking at risk and identify your business risk, try to relate or correlate those risks to technology risk. So you can have a conversation with a business person or a technology person. And the technology person you talk to about the technology risk, explain the impact on the business. To the business executive, you talk around about the business risk and what the IT organization has to do to manage that technology risk component of it.
So
and so I find you can really have a decent conversation about the business. You don't have to use a lot of acronyms. I'm a big believer in trying to put everything you want to communicate on no more than like 3 pages and keep things relatively simple.
It's always better when things are simple, right?
Simpler the better.
Especially for some of us.
Well, and especially we live in a world today where everything is changing so fast, including the business, including your competition, including the environmental environment you have to live and work in, as well as all the technology, that it's hard for keep someone in tune with all of those different vectors. So focus on the simple things in a simple aspect of communication, in which they can focus on the things that are important to them. Then you can correlate what's important to you to what's important to them, and then you know what to focus on.
Are there some themes that you picked up in today's interchange, CISO, CIO, that you're taking away from today?
Well, number one, I think many people are focusing on this phenomenon of digital transformation. I would say that many of them are struggling with it. And on the other hand, if you went back to whatever business transformation was 10 or 20 years ago, it's the same. The biggest resistance, if you will, or the biggest friction factor is with getting employees and customers to change. So that would suggest that maybe before you start effectuating change, you should spend a lot more time on trying to understand how do you convince people, or what's that person's skin in the game, to jump in on the bandwagon and want to change. Because if they don't want to change, and if they don't think it's a better outcome for them, then you're going to meet a lot of resistance.
It's always better if you can personalize the change. What's the benefit to them?
What's in it? What's in it for me?
Exactly. So last question. I think they're talking about the next interchange being in Seattle. I think I heard the September timeframe. What would you say to a CIO, CISO out there who maybe hasn't attended one of these yet? What's a good reason why you think others should come and participate?
Well, I think if you want to have some real insight and be able to talk person to person, who's to an individual who's going through the same challenges that you are, and hopefully meet some people who may have already solved some of those challenges, or not, because failure can be a good teacher. But being able to sit down face to face across from the table and have a conversation with someone who's in the same shoes you are, and you can better empathize with him as to what you've tried that didn't work, what you've tried that do work, and then he'll feel a lot better asking you similar questions, and then you can engage him and see what experiences have he had that could be helpful to you.
Very much a network of peers.
Exactly.
Great opportunity to talk with others in maybe different industry, maybe the same, but in the same shoes in many ways.
Right, exactly.
Well, thank you for leading the session, and appreciate
my
you
pleasure.
being here.
Thank you.
I learned a lot from being in your group, so thank you.
Okay. You can take that to the bank.
There we go. It's worth what we paid for it, right?
Thanks again.
You bet.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Hey, thanks, Mitchell. Great insight, great discussion and analysis as usual. Just keep laying it down, Mitchell. Anyway, guys, I think and gals, that is going to call a close to week 2 of Techstrong TV. I hope you've enjoyed today's show as well as the whole week and the last 2 weeks. We're going to be back Monday with some fresh content, and we'll be right here with you. Hopefully, everyone will be healthy and well and safe, and enjoy your weekend. Do join I'm going to say it again, our Techstrong Slack channel at techstrongtv.slack.com. Go to techstrong.tv to get an invite. We'd love to hear what you're saying there. And we'll see everyone on Monday. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. This is Alan Schimmel for Techstrong TV on the Digital Anarchist Network.